My parents always favored my sister. Even though we're twins, she was coddled and protected every second, while I was thrown into boarding school from a young age. It wasn't until I got into Harvard that things changed. Right before her own college entrance exams, my sister, Erin, got pregnant by some local punk. We told her to get an abortion. She resented us for it and set my parents' room on fire in the middle of the night. I got severely burned all over trying to save them. In the end, Erin went to Harvard using my name. My mother came to my hospital bed, wiping away tears. Your sister's life is just beginning. I can't let anyone ruin it for her. This is just your fate. Crying, she pulled my oxygen tube. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my senior year of high school. I had just found the positive pregnancy test my sister threw in the trash. This was my second month in a vegetative state. Even though my sister was the one who started the fire, my parents told the police I was a troubled kid who did it on purpose. I was wheeled into the ICU. My parents, completely unharmed, walked with my sister to the hospital payment window. When it came time to confirm the patient's name, my mother paused for a second, then gave my sister's name. She pulled Erin into a corner, gripping her arm tightly. Listen to me, sweetie. From now on, you're Claire. Do you understand? Claire is my name. The frantic look on my sister's face went blank for a moment. Then she nodded hard and threw herself into our mother's arms. A smirk played on her lips. I'll do whatever you say, Mom. My father smoked in silence until my mother finished filling out the forms. His voice was hoarse. This isn't right, is it? What's not right about it? Mom snapped, shoving him and lowering her voice. Didn't you hear the doctor? Claire's probably never waking up. Are you going to let our other daughter get sent to prison? She gently tapped my sister on the forehead. A look of exasperation on her face. You're such a handful. Playing with fire in the middle of the night. Now look at this mess. My soul floated in the air. A soul doesn't need to breathe, but I felt like I was suffocating. Despair washed over me like a flood. My sister happily went off to a prestigious university under my name. I, lying in a hospital bed, became the arsonist on the news. When interviewed, my parents cried and said I'd been difficult and hot-tempered since I was little. At first, they came to see me every day. Then it became once a week. Now it's been a month, and they haven't shown up at all. Until my sister made a phone call. Her face was pale as she sobbed about having nightmares every night, dreaming that her identity was exposed, dreaming that I was coming back to haunt her. After hanging up, my mother put on her coat. Let's go to the hospital and see Claire. That simple sentence sparked a tiny, uncontrollable flicker of hope in me. But her next words shattered me like a giant axe, leaving me in bloody pieces. She said, Claire's already like this. Living is just suffering for her. Why don't we help her find peace sooner? My father, hunched over, chain-smoked, his eyes bloodshot. She risked her life to save us. Are we really going to do this? A parent's love means thinking about their child's future. Are you just going to watch our younger daughter's life be ruined? My father's back bent even lower. If you won't go, I'll go myself. Mom glared at him and stormed out the door. I followed her to the hospital. She tucked a small, paper-wrapped copper coin into my hand. When you're dead, just let your soul scatter. Don't you dare come back and scare your sister. A soul, once separated from the body, isn't supposed to feel pain. But watching my own mother pull my oxygen plug, hearing the piercing shriek of the monitor, my heart felt like it was going to explode from the agony. I could have survived. To save my parents, I ran back into that raging fire again and again. I was willing to sacrifice myself to keep them safe. And this was the horrific price I paid. I thought my soul would just dissipate. But when my vision cleared, I found myself standing in the bathroom. In the mirror was my face, untouched by fire. Stunned, I glanced down and saw the pregnancy test with its 2 red lines in the trash can. I realized I had been reborn. When I opened the door, my mom was pointing at me, furious. Didn't I tell you to get up at 4 to make millet porridge for Erin? Did you sleep through your alarm? I looked down at my sister, sitting at the table with a smug look in her eyes. I knew for a long time that my mother didn't like me. Ever since elementary school, my parents had sent me away to boarding school. My sister, however, grew up by their side. On the rare weekends I came home from school, I still had to wake up early to cook breakfast and do laundry for Aaron. It wasn't even deep winter yet, but my hands were already chapped and raw with chilblains from the cold water. My mother was indifferent. You owe this to Aaron. When my mother was giving birth to us, I was in a transverse position, forcing her to have a C-section. It left a faint scar on her stomach. When we were little, she would always feed Aaron first and put her to sleep before forcing the cold, lumpy porridge into my mouth. The moment I cried, she would yell impatiently, "What are you crying for? If it wasn't for you, would I have this ugly scar on my body?" My mother wanted a son, but she never got pregnant again. She was convinced the C-section had damaged her body, making her infertile. She would poke me hard in the head. "It's all your fault, you worthless girl. Because of you, our family line is going to end." I didn't dare cry. I just bit my lip and took it. Later, when my sister and I started school, I got good grades while she often failed. When I showed Mom my test paper with perfect scores, she wasn't happy at all. She pushed me aside and shot me a hateful look. "You're a thankless wolf. You stole all the nutrients from your sister in the womb. And now she gets a headache whenever she tries to study." That's not true. It's not. It was because I did my homework and studied hard. Erin's headaches came from hiding under the covers playing games on her tablet. But my mom wouldn't listen to my explanation. She slammed the door, locking me out. I could hear her inside, cooing softly as she comforted my sister. It was a gentleness I had never experienced. For a time, I was brainwashed into thinking I was born indebted to my family. I thought if I was just hardworking and obedient enough, my mother might share a tiny bit of the love she gave my sister with me. Thinking about it now, it's just so ironic. I wasn't born a sinner. Those righteous accusations were just excuses my parents used to cover up their blatant favoritism. I have to get out of this dangerous house as soon as possible. In my past life, I was worried my sister Erin was heading down the wrong path, so I told our parents she was pregnant. That only made her hate me. I can't expose her right now. If she sets a fire like last time, I can protect myself, but it would endanger the entire apartment building. Thinking about what happened to our neighbors in the fire last time, I silently grabbed a tissue and covered the pregnancy test in the trash. Since Erin wants to be a mother so badly, I'll be kind enough to let her have her wish. After packing my things, I slung my worn-out backpack over my shoulder and headed back to school. On the way, I bought a new SIM card. I sent a text to Erin from the new number. "If you don't want your parents to find out you're pregnant, bring me $20,000. Not long after I sent the message, my phone blew up with a barrage of texts. Erin was frantically asking who I was. I knew her too well. She was terrified our parents would drag her to get an abortion. I ignored all of it. I only replied telling her to get the money ready and leave it in a storage locker. In return, I'd keep her secret. Erin had been coddled by our parents her whole life. She had the heart of a snake, but the courage of a mouse. I retrieved the $20,000 in cash from the locker without any trouble. In my past life, I had pleaded with her not to date that punk before the college entrance exams. Erin looked at me with contempt. "Do you really think you're my big sister? At best, you're just my maid." She flaunted it proudly. "Mom and Dad gave me $10,000 for the new year. Did you get anything?" "Well, I have money now." I squeezed the thick stack of bills, feeling a sense of security. With this money, I could focus on my studies without any distractions. Although I managed to get into Harvard in my past life, my score wasn't high enough for the major I really wanted. Since I've been given a second chance, I have to work even harder than before. I didn't go home again. I spent every weekend in the dorm, cramming like crazy. It's not like anyone wanted me home anyway. My roommates all called me a workaholic. As the end of the year approached, I saw Erin on campus. 6 months pregnant, her figure had become round and her walk was clumsy, but with a loose down jacket on, no one suspected a thing. When she saw me, she raised her voice. "Mom and Dad just bought me this new jacket. It cost over $2,000, you know." Listening to the envious compliments from others, she lifted her chin and smiled at me. "Sister, if you just listened to Mom and Dad, maybe they'd buy you one too." I glanced down at my own worn-out cotton coat. Even though we have the same face, My whole life I've only ever worn Erin's hand-me-downs and used her old backpacks. Thankfully, in this new life, I've long accepted that I'm the unwanted child. On New Year's Eve, I used the anonymous number to call Erin's cell from my room. I used a voice changer, lowering my pitch. Erin, put $50,000 in the storage locker downstairs. I'll be there to pick it up at 11:30 p.m. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind letting your parents, your classmates, and your teachers know you're pregnant. By the time she called back, furious, I had already turned off my phone. To get her hands on that much money, Erin had no choice but to steal from our parents' savings. Sure enough, when I checked the hidden camera I'd installed earlier, I saw Erin rummaging through everything. After she found the money and tiptoed out the front door, I burst out of my bedroom in a panic. I banged on their door, yelling, "Mom, Dad, something's wrong. Erin's gone." When we rushed downstairs, we saw Erin struggling with a man dressed all in black. My mother screamed and ran to protect Erin. The man pushed her back, and she fell to the ground, pulling Erin down with her. It was New Year's Eve, and all the neighbors who were downstairs watching fireworks gathered around. Someone pointed at Erin and gasped, "Look, she's bleeding from down there. Is that little girl pregnant?" My parents looked in horror at the crimson blood slowly pooling beneath Erin. The man in black ripped off his hood, his face shocked. It was the face Erin loved most. Her boyfriend, Kyle. How interesting. All I did was text him from an anonymous number, telling him there was $50,000 in a locker. If he helped me get it, I'd give him $10,000. He fell for it. It wasn't until Erin was in the hospital that the doctor implied the baby couldn't be saved. My mother, distraught, kept muttering, "How could this happen? Erin is such a good girl. She must have been tricked by some bad man." My dad pulled out his phone to call the police, but Erin struggled and snatched it away. She dragged herself to the window. "Don't you dare call the police, or I'll jump and you can watch me die." Terrified, my mother quickly promised not to call. Erin's face was deathly pale. She lowered her head and whispered to herself, "Kyle must have had his reasons." Oh, my foolish sister. No love for her parents, no love for her sister. Her only devotion was to a good-for-nothing punk. Erin was discharged from the hospital a week later, looking pale and defeated. My parents fussed over her, taking care of her while she recovered from the miscarriage. I was happy for the peace and quiet, holing up in my room to study. Just as I was about to go get some hot water, I heard my mother in the living room, talking on the phone with a relative. Yes, she had a miscarriage. The baby didn't make it. You're mistaken, sister-in-law. The one who had the miscarriage was Claire, not Erin. Sigh, Claire has always been so stubborn. This time she went and fooled around with some guy behind our backs and got herself pregnant. It's so shameful. I raised them both the same, so how come Erin is so obedient and well-behaved? I stood in the doorway of my bedroom, staring at her, my body trembling with rage. Hearing the noise, Erin came out of her room, a cruel smile on her pale face. "Sister, Mom says getting pregnant before marriage is bad for a girl's reputation, so I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you to take the fall for me." I keenly caught the flash of hatred in her eyes. That hatred wasn't for me, but for... My gaze fell on the woman in the living room. "Mom, Erin was the one who had the miscarriage. Why are you telling people it was me?" I stumbled backward in disbelief. She walked over, supported Erin with a look of heartache, and then gestured toward me with her chin. "You're the older sister. You should help your sister. Erin is innocent and can't handle all the gossip out there. When school starts, don't you go either. Wait until Erin has recovered, and then you can go together." The two of them walked into the room together, not even asking for my opinion, as if they didn't think I'd dare to refuse. Before closing the door, my mother shot me a cold glare. "Be a good girl and listen. Otherwise, you can forget about getting any money for tuition or housing next semester." The bedroom door slammed shut. I slung my backpack on, took one last look back, and left that cage of thorns. The internet cafe was pretty empty during the New Year holiday. I exported the security footage, admired my own brilliant performance, quickly edited it, and posted it online. Then I checked into a hotel and slept until dawn. So refreshing. When I woke up, my phone had exploded with notifications from all sorts of group chats. The video hadn't gone viral in a big way. But the beauty of the internet is that the algorithm pushes content to people you know. The family group chat was blowing up. Scrolling to the top, my aunt was the first to comment sarcastically. "Are you trying to pull a switcheroo? Have you no shame pulling a stunt like this? How can you call yourself a mother, with your heart so obviously biased?" Next was a stern critique from my uncle. "Family matters shouldn't be aired in public. This Claire girl needs to be disciplined. Can't things be discussed properly? Why post it online for outsiders to laugh at?" My uncle is a teacher and cares deeply about his reputation. With his support, my mom let loose, firing off a barrage of 60-second voice messages in the group. She unleashed a lifetime's worth of curses on me. My dad was late to the party, finally explaining in the group. "I wasn't home that day. What she and her daughter did was outrageous. Please forgive us, I'll be sure to discipline them." I smirked. He was hiding on the balcony that day. The neighborhood community chat was also buzzing, with people vaguely criticizing the mother in the video for being too biased. "Twins? Isn't that the family in Building 14? Someone who knew us tagged my parents." Hilarious. They couldn't be tagged. As soon as someone revealed the building number, my parents had a silent agreement and both left the group chat. My phone was being blown up by their calls. "You ungrateful brat, you've gotten bold, haven't you? Posting your parents online for everyone to curse at. We would have been better off raising a dog for the last 18 years. My father took the phone. "Claire, where did you go all by yourself? Dad is very worried about you." His tone was gentle, filled with concern and anxiety. He sounded like an extremely loving father. But I knew it was just a hypocritical mask. Just like in my last life. My mother pulled the oxygen tube, killing my physical body. And his silence and indulgence killed me a second time, slicing my soul to pieces bit by bit. Seeing that I wasn't saying anything, my mother started yelling again. "You'd better clarify everything online right now, or you can disown me as your mother." I laughed. "All right then, goodbye, sir and ma'am. Without parents like them, my future will only be brighter and more brilliant." They didn't contact me again. When the new semester started, they didn't pay my tuition or put any money on my student ID card. They were probably waiting for me to bow my head and beg. My aunt filled me in on the situation at home. After I posted that video, Aaron's boyfriend's mother saw it. She brought her son, Kyle, over to propose marriage, but my parents threw them out. Aaron, however, threatened to kill herself if she couldn't be with her punk boyfriend. They had a huge fight over it, but somehow my parents eventually agreed. The condition was that Kyle's family had to come up with a $50,000 bride price. Even though people called them greedy for demanding so much, they stuck to the $50,000 figure. My aunt said softly, "Your mom has been spending a lot of money on secret fertility remedies lately, drinking herbal medicine every day. It seems like since her first attempt at raising a child failed, she's planning on starting over with a new one." The $50,000 was probably to fund the milk powder for her future son. I just laughed it off and went back to burying my head in my college entrance exam practice questions. Occasionally, after finishing my vocabulary review at night, I'd see my mother's posts on my social media feed. She was frantically sharing articles from clickbait accounts. For women trying to conceive, these supplements are a must-have. Do these 3 things every morning, and you're guaranteed to have a son. Share this lucky koi fish for a baby boy next year. Seeing these late at night gave me mixed feelings. How could a reasonably smart person like me have such a foolish mother? Time flew by. I worked hard, absorbing everything from my textbooks, frantically making up for the knowledge I lacked in my past life. After a while, Erin showed up to see me, which was unheard of. She had taken a break from school and had been resting at home for a few months, but she looked terrible. "Mom's pregnant, you know," she said through gritted teeth. I just said oh. Apparently unsatisfied with my reaction, she flew into a rage. "Once she has a son, do you think there will be any place left for us in this house? Not my problem." I walked around her, put on my headphones, and quietly reviewed my English listening practice. Behind me, Erin's shouts faded away. I placed first in 2 consecutive citywide mock exams. I was more stable, more confident than in my previous life. On the day of the 100-day countdown ceremony, I was in the audience, diligently taking notes on the advice from upperclassmen. My homeroom teacher had a student come get me. As soon as I stepped into the office, I saw a familiar face. My dad's face was flushed red, and he raised his hand to slap me. I dodged to the side. He probably didn't expect me to dare to move. His hand slammed into the wooden desk, and he winced in pain. He growled at me. "You're still messing around out here? Don't you know something happened to your mother? Your mom just had surgery. You need to get to the hospital and take care of her now." He turned to my homeroom teacher, his tone demanding. "Teacher, I'm requesting 2 weeks of leave for Claire." I avoided the hand he reached out for me. "What kind of surgery? Isn't she pregnant? Just go when I tell you to. Why are you so disobedient now?" His face twisted, and he glared at me angrily, avoiding the question. I found it laughable. A while back, my mom missed her period for a month and was convinced she was pregnant, boasting about it in the family group chat. But my aunt told me a few days ago that my mom went to the hospital for a checkup. She wasn't pregnant. She had a huge ovarian cyst that required minimally invasive surgery to remove. I had already anticipated they would come looking for me, so I had explained the situation to my homeroom teacher in advance. My eyes welled up with tears as I pleaded. "Teacher, my parents want me to take the college entrance exams for my sister. When I refused, they kicked me out of the house during the new year. They even wanted to send me to the countryside to marry a 40-year-old disabled bachelor, so I couldn't go to college. So when my dad proposed taking me with him, my homeroom teacher immediately stood in front of me. Mr. Lin, the college entrance exams are less than 100 days away. Everyone is racing against time to study. How can we let Claire get distracted at a time like this?" My teacher added pointedly. "Besides, I heard Claire's sister, Erin, is currently on leave from school and at home. Wouldn't it be better for her to go take care of her at the hospital?" My dad was not happy to hear that. How could that work? Erin's been spoiled her whole life. How would she know how to take care of someone? The teacher made a TSK sound, his expression telling. The other teachers in the office also looked over at him. My dad is all about saving face, and his face turned beet red. He pointed a finger at me, furious. "If you've got the guts, then never come home again." With that, he stormed out. The homeroom teacher sighed, patted my shoulder, and gave me a half-day off, suggesting I go see my mom at the hospital. Visiting a patient was out of the question. I'd been losing a lot of hair from studying late recently, so I went to a doctor to get some vitamin B. The vitamin pills at the hospital pharmacy are cheap, only $3 a bottle. As I was leaving the clinic, I looked up and saw my dad rushing out of the elevator from the floor above. He was wearing a large hoodie, as if afraid of being recognized. I glanced at the sign. The floor above was the urology department. I followed him from behind, watching as he went downstairs and ran straight into the inpatient building across the street. Through the door of the hospital room, I heard my mom asking him suspiciously where he had been for so long. "Nowhere, just had a smoke outside." My dad's voice was muffled. He hid the fact that he'd just come from the urology clinic. I had a feeling my dad was hiding another secret. My mom didn't suspect a thing. Her tone was dejected. "Oh, James, I've let you down in this life. I couldn't even give you a son. I asked the doctor, and at my age, it's probably impossible for me to get pregnant again." As she spoke, she gritted her teeth. "I finally see it now. That girl Claire is a jinx, she's cursed me. It was because she was in the wrong position that I had to have a C-section in the first place. Otherwise, how could I not be able to have a son?" My dad was silent for a moment. Claire is really getting more and more out of line. I left the hospital with a cold smile. Before I even reached the main gate, my phone started buzzing. My cousin had forwarded me the chat history from our family group. My mom had sent several voice messages. "My life is so bitter. The daughter I risked my life to give birth to won't even come take care of me after surgery. What's the use of being good at school? She's just going to be married off to another family anyway. You all be my witnesses. From now on, James and I are disowning this daughter. From today on, Erin is my only daughter." No one in the group responded to her. After a long while, my aunt slowly replied, "If you're sick, get treated. Don't be a damn lunatic. Claire needs to prepare for her college entrance exams. Do you think everyone is like Erin, who's already lived half a lifetime at such a young age. My cousin cautiously whispered to me, "Sis, if you and Aaron didn't look exactly alike, I'd almost suspect you were adopted." Even an outsider could see it so clearly. In my past life, these words would have hurt me for a while, but now, I'm actually glad they want to cut ties with me. After their dream of having a son was shattered, they held a banquet. They announced to all our relatives that all their assets would be inherited by Aaron in the future. Aaron would find a live-in husband, and their son would take the Lin family name, thus continuing the family line. They managed to make inheriting a shabby 750-square-foot apartment feel as grand as ascending to the throne. Erin posted a picture on her social media. In the photo, she was kissing her punk boyfriend passionately. It seems he was her chosen live-in husband. Great, just great. A match made in trash heaven. On a sunny day, I asked Erin to meet me. She brought her bleach blonde boyfriend with her. She glanced at me arrogantly. "Mom and Dad have already given me all the family assets. Don't even think about fighting me for them." Her boyfriend, Kyle, chimed in, "Yeah, everything the Lin family has belongs to Aaron and me." His eyes darted around, looking me up and down lecherously. I suppressed my disgust and forced a bitter smile. "Aaron, I know I made Mom and Dad angry this time. I bought these medical checkup cards specifically for them. Could you please give them to them for me?" Aaron looked suspicious. I took the opportunity to press the checkup cards into her hand, wiping away non-existent tears from the corner of my eye. "Please don't tell them the cards are from me. I'm afraid they're still angry and won't accept them. Aaron, please just help me out. Could you put in a good word for me with Mom and Dad?" The card clearly stated, 2000 health checkup package. A glint of cunning flashed in Erin's eyes as she pocketed the card. She nodded perfunctorily. "About time you showed some sense." The checkup cards were registered to our parents' names, so even if they wanted to sell them, they couldn't. A week later, the electronic health reports popped up on the private hospital's official social media account. I quickly scrolled to the last page. The test results showed, James Lin is diagnosed with infertility. I froze for a second. Although I had been about 70–80% sure, seeing the actual report still made my chest ache with a sour feeling. I called Erin to ask about the checkup. She snorted. "Dad went to get the reports himself. He's perfectly healthy, no problems." Looking at the infertility section on the electronic report, my heart felt like it had a gaping hole in it. All these years, he had put on such a good act. He played the part of a tolerant husband, magnanimously forgiving his wife for being unable to bear him a son. He played the part of a cold-blooded father. He stood by and watched coldly as his wife blamed her daughter for her infertility. He portrayed himself as the only innocent victim in this storm, watching me get scolded by my mother since childhood, watching me become my sister's servant, watching me die bearing a lifetime of false accusations. What a good father. Amid the chirping of cicadas outside the window, the college entrance exams came to an end. There was no way I was ever going back to that house. I rented a short-term apartment near the school. I took on 2 tutoring jobs and spent the rest of my time studying for university courses in advance. So when the admissions officers from Harvard came looking for me, I wasn't at home. When they told my parents I was the city's top scorer in the science stream, they were stunned. Claire is an exceptional student, and I'm here today with a sincere offer from the university. My mom's eyes darted around. She glanced furtively outside the door, then slammed it shut. She exchanged a look with my dad, then yelled towards one of the rooms, "Claire, come out. The recruiters from Harvard are here." Erin shuffled out, her eyelids heavy. "Mom, are you senile?" Claire already took off. My mom squeezed her arm hard and smiled proudly at the admissions officers. "This is my daughter, Claire, the top scorer." The Harvard recruiter frowned. "She's Claire?" My mom puffed out her chest. "Of course." Erin realized this was a golden opportunity to change her life, and quickly smoothed her hair. "Yes, I'm Claire. I'm the top scorer." She pouted. "Harvard only sent the 2 of you. That's not very sincere, is it?" The recruiter's mouth twitched. Before he could speak, Erin interrupted him. "The people from Yale should be on their way too, right? To be honest, I'm not that interested in Harvard. If you want me to go, what kind of offer can you make?" My parents chimed in theatrically. "That's right, our daughter is the top scorer. you know. Is there some kind of misunderstanding? The Harvard recruiter was speechless. We've already communicated with Claire. She will be enrolling in our power engineering program. I'm here today to assist her with transferring her household registration. As he spoke, he lifted his phone, which had been hanging by his side. It was on a video call. On the screen, I smiled politely at them. The three of them were huddled together, their faces stiff and ugly. Someone knocked on the door. The recruiter opened it. 2 police officers walked in, their expressions grave. Who called the police? On the phone screen, I raised my hand high. Officers, someone is illegally using my identity for criminal purposes. The admissions officer nodded in agreement. Yes, I can testify to that. The Lin family was escorted into a police car. My dad panicked. We were just joking around with Claire. The police ignored him. His voice turned cold, and he shoved my mom. This is all your fault, you and your daughter, with your stupid ideas. My mom lowered her head meekly. My mom would curse at me, hit me, and use the most vicious words against me, but she never dared to say a single word against my dad. She felt she had failed him by not giving him a son, that her body was useless, that she had let him down. So my dad rightfully enjoyed her endless devotion and flattery. She was a woman from a bygone era, wearing invisible shackles in a modern world. Tragic, but not pitiful. Just as my dad predicted, the incident was classified as a domestic dispute. The police didn't want to get involved and asked me to come sign a settlement agreement. At the entrance of the police station, I saw Aaron's boyfriend, Kyle. His eyes lit up when he saw me. Sis. Claire, sis. You're doing really well for yourself now, huh? How much prize money do you get for being the top scorer? You look so fancy in that outfit. He shamelessly tried to cozy up to me, his eyes fixed on my designer clothes, sunglasses, and luxury handbag. He looked like he was drooling, not seeming at all worried about his girlfriend who was locked up inside. I patted my 3,000 bag, my expression indifferent. Top scorers don't get this much prize money. I earned all this myself. What kind of business are you in that's so profitable? His scornful gaze lingered on my chest, as if he was certain that my designer gear was all paid for by selling my body. I swallowed the nausea rising in my stomach and pulled out my phone. It's a long story. Let's add each other on social media first. As I watched him eagerly scroll through my feed, I lowered my head to hide the smile on my lips. After leaving the police station, I went to a second-hand luxury rental shop downtown. I took off all my designer gear and returned it to the owner. After putting it away, she laughed. Just renting for half a day? Seeing me promptly pay the deposit, she seemed a little dissatisfied. Didn't I say you could borrow it for free? Why are you paying me really? I put on my work uniform and smiled as I greeted a new customer who had just walked in. This was my summer part-time job, working as a sales associate at a second-hand luxury store. I handle all sorts of luxury goods every day. So, all Kyle had to do was open my social media feed to see the illusion I had carefully crafted for him. Every day, a new designer bag, perfectly manicured nails and afternoon tea, and my photoshopped pictures of massive investment returns. It didn't take long for him to cave. He sent me a private message. Sis, what kind of business are you in? Can you let your brother-in-law in on it? I deliberately made him wait for half a day before replying. Stock trading. At first, he didn't believe me. You're a student, and you know how to trade stocks? I ignored him. A couple of days later, I posted a picture of a house deed on my feed. The caption read, "Traded stocks for half a month and finally bought my own little place. Keep it up." Kyle liked the post. Late that night, he messaged me. Sis, can you teach me how to make money too? I pretended to be reluctant. I've had a falling out with my family. If they knew you were trading stocks with me, they definitely wouldn't approve. To hell with them. Sis, please just let me in on it. If you have to, you can take a cut of my profits. I asked him how much money he had. He hemmed and hawed for a while before asking if $2,000 was enough. That's it. That's not even a mosquito bite. I sighed helplessly. Fine, 2,000 it is. Just think of it as me helping you earn some pocket money. Seeing that I agreed, he thanked me profusely and immediately transferred the money. Of course, I didn't disappoint him. A week later, After his anxious prodding, I transferred $4,000 back to him. I also sent him a photoshopped screenshot of the returns. Invested $2,000, got back $6,000. I took a $2,000 commission. Sis, you're my one and only sister. He immediately transferred the $4,000 back to me. Sis, I want to keep making money with you. Of course, I gladly accepted. After a few more weeks of this, helping him make a few successful trades, he seemed to become more and more frantic, investing larger and larger sums. But his attitude soured. Sis, you used to take a 50% cut, but now you're taking 80%. Isn't that a bit harsh? I'm your brother-in-law. I sneered. Who told you to start with so little capital? If it wasn't for the fact that you're my brother-in-law, I wouldn't even bother with such a small amount. He called me annoyed, saying his mom wouldn't give him any more money. I kindly reminded him that the family house had already been transferred to Aaron's name. Mortgaging the house could get him a large sum of money. He hesitated a little. I took the opportunity to push him harder. Anyway, I don't need your chump change. You can figure it out yourself. If you made big money, you wouldn't have to be alive and son-in-law. How embarrassing is that? Kyle went silent. After a while, as if he had made up his mind, he said through gritted teeth, "Fine, sis. I'm with you." So, on the day I went to register at Harvard, Kyle and Aaron also came to Boston. I was busy with orientation and couldn't get away, so I told Kyle to go to the stock exchange and learn on his own first. At first, he was all sis this and sis that, sucking up to me. After a while, his tone became arrogant. He accused me of taking too high a commission, saying that while I claimed to be helping him make money, all the cash was actually going into my own pocket. I met this guy, Mike, at the exchange. He's way more decent than you. He only takes a 10% cut of the profits. No wonder Aaron said you're a thankless wolf. Tui, I'm never working with you again. He promptly blocked me. In my past life, as my soul drifted through the hospital, I overheard all sorts of news. In recent years, a lot of scammers have been hanging around the stock exchange, specifically targeting ambitious people from out of town who want to strike it rich. They use over-the-top promises to lure them into pyramid schemes. The next day, I called Kyle's phone. A strange man answered. He asked with a gruff laugh, "Are you a relative of Kyle's?" "Oh no, I'm a telemarketer for phone cards," I said and hung up. Those two fell into the trap even faster than I expected. But what can you do? They were just that greedy. The Lin family was in chaos. Aaron left a note saying, "Kyle and I are off to make big money," and then disappeared. My aunt said my mom has been beating her chest in despair lately, blaming herself for forcing Aaron to repeat a year of school. Otherwise, her daughter wouldn't have just run off. She became a broken record, crying to every relative about how miserable her life was. I saw a post from my uncle, whom I rarely contact. This year's top scorer in the science stream, Claire Lynn, is my niece Grin. She used to be an average student, not very bright, and often failed math. I gave her targeted tutoring for half a semester, and her grades shot right up. If you want good grades, tutoring from a renowned teacher is a must. Handshake. My cousin meekly asked, "Is he trying to recruit students for his tutoring class?" I don't remember ever being tutored by him. Back in my freshman year of high school, I had bronchitis and was on M4 drip at a clinic for a week, causing me to fall behind in my classes. Since my uncle was a math teacher, I gathered the courage to send him a problem I couldn't solve, asking for his help. He replied several days later, "You can't even solve such a simple problem? You must be fooling around instead of studying. What's the point of telling you? I've seen plenty of little girls like you. Your mind isn't on your studies at all. Don't waste my time." After that, I never contacted this esteemed educator again. Later, I finished my freshman year at the top of my class. In my sophomore year, I chose the science track. When my uncle found out, he commented coolly, "Girls are only good at rote learning. Their brains can't keep up with science." And now he has the audacity to use my name to recruit students for his tutoring business. The nerve. He's worked at that bottom-ranked middle school for over a decade, a mediocre teacher who is still just a substitute. Now, riding on my reputation, he's charging an exorbitant fee of $500 per session. But he's not going to get away with using me so easily. I immediately reported him to the Board of Education for running an illegal tutoring business. It was summer break, and the city was cracking down hard on illegal tutoring centers. My uncle was made an example of. His name was published on the news website, and he was fired on the spot by the school. A few months passed. I focused on seeking guidance from my professors on professional matters and delving deep into my field of study. There was no word from Aaron. My parents had no choice but to accept that their beloved daughter had abandoned them. They started calling me instead, asking how I was doing with false warmth. My dad said in a very forgiving tone, "What's past is past. We forgive you for all the hurtful things you said when you were being immature. Come home for winter break, and we'll throw you a party to celebrate you getting into college." He heard my scornful laugh. He paused on the phone, then his anger flared. "Are you really planning to cut ties with us? Don't forget who raised you. If it wasn't for giving birth to you, your mother wouldn't have damaged her body and been unable to conceive again. The Lin family line is broken because of you." He got more and more worked up, his voice full of confidence. My mom chimed in beside him, agreeing. I let out a laugh, hung up the phone and blocked their number. Then I printed out 10 copies of his medical report, sent them to the post office, and placed an online order for 10 delivery guys to drop them off. The delivery guys saw the report and, probably trying to save me from embarrassment, asked if they should wrap it. No need. Just leave it on the company's front desk. And so, that long overdue medical report was placed on James Lin's desk at his company. There was no recipient's name, so anyone passing by could pick it up and read it. In less than half a day, James Lin noticed his colleagues were looking at him strangely. Disbelief, ridicule, mockery, pity. The kind-hearted receptionist braced herself and brought the report to him. James Lin only needed one look. He broke out in a sweat, his face flushed, and he shot up from his desk and bolted out of the office. At the same time, my mom, my uncles, my aunts, and all of my mom's side of the family also received a copy of the report. I don't know the exact details of what happened, but my aunt told me that my dad now despises his younger daughter, Erin. Who knew Erin could be so vicious? Off enjoying herself somewhere, and she sends her own father's medical report to everyone. Your mom is at home, threatening to kill herself or fight your dad to the death, furious that he made a fool of her. They're fighting every day. Finally, my aunt asked me, "Claire, did you know about your dad's infertility?" What could I do? I just shook my head innocently. I had no idea, Auntie. It was Erin who arranged the medical checkup for Mom and Dad. I wasn't involved. The sharpest dagger, of course, had to be plunged in by their most beloved daughter. Infertility isn't some shameful, contagious disease. But my dad is obsessed with his reputation and couldn't stand the gossip from his colleagues and relatives. He quit his job in a fit of rage. He's now actively trying to conceive at home, planning to try for another son. Apparently, he's taking some new drug for infertility. During winter break, I received a call from that private hospital. The nurse said with a smile, per our recommendation, "Your father recently participated in a phase 1 clinical trial for a male infertility drug. As per your previous conditions, the $4,000 for the medical checkup card has been refunded to your account as a referral fee." Clutching the money that had made its way back to me, I silently treated myself to a big meal. Not long after, I heard my parents lost even their home. Before Erin left, she mortgaged the house to the bank for a hefty loan. When the loan couldn't be repaid, the bank came to foreclose. My parents were kicked out. They couldn't get in touch with Erin no matter what. They shoved each other and slapped each other in the hallway. "It's all your fault. You always spoiled Erin, making her stupid and cruel. Now we don't even have a house. You have the nerve to blame me? Weren't you the one who transferred the house to her name? James Lin, I think you're the one whose brain has been eaten by a dog. Wasn't that because you were always talking about getting a live-in son-in-law? Treating Erin like a son? That's why I fell for it. Pa, are you even a man? If you weren't useless, would I be without a son to take care of me in my old age?" Now they didn't even have the time or energy to try for another baby. Forced by circumstances, they rented a shabby one-room apartment. The two of them fought at home every day. The police had to come and mediate several times. After hearing all this gossip from my relatives, I just laughed it off. The next time I heard about them was during my junior year of college. Apparently, they had just gotten their divorce papers and started fighting again as soon as they got back to their rental. In a fit of rage, my dad set the apartment on fire. Luckily, it was daytime, and the young people in the building were all at work. When the firefighters rescued them, the man only had minor burns. The woman had inhaled a lot of smoke and suffered extensive burns all over her body. She was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. As their daughter by blood, of course, I had to visit. When I arrived at the hospital, my dad's right hand was bandaged, and he was sitting on the side, looking dejected. My mom had been revived and was in the intensive care unit. The doctor said with pity, "The patient's lungs and skin are severely damaged. Her chances of survival are low. We will initiate a second rescue attempt if there's an emergency. The treatment costs are high. You should be prepared." I nodded. "Doctor, money is not an issue. Use whatever equipment is necessary." The doctor was a bit surprised and gave me an approving look. My dad dragged his feet over, tears of emotion streaming down his face as he grasped my hand. "Claire, I knew you were a good, filial daughter. From now on, Dad only has you." I pulled my hand away and asked the doctor if I could go in to see my mom. I entered the ICU. I saw my mom, naked and hooked up to all sorts of tubes. The machines whirred and beeped. Her gasping breaths sounded like a broken old fan. I slowly walked closer. "Mom, don't worry about the money. I bought you medical insurance. It'll be reimbursed." Seeing her agitated and pained expression, I said, word by word, "Just slowly enjoy the feeling of being alive." Her face contorted as she tried to lunge at me, but she didn't have the strength. She collapsed back onto the bed, and the machines shrieked. Doctors and nurses rushed in to continue the resuscitation. I wiped away tears gratefully. "Please, I'm begging you. You have to save my mom." I went back to school. The hospital regularly updated me on my mom's condition. The probability of recovery was low, but the patient had a strong will to live, so she survived one resuscitation after another. In my senior year, I started my internship. On the news, the police had busted 4 pyramid scheme dens. The leaders were arrested, and the people who had been scammed were rescued. Even though the faces in the video were pixelated, I recognized my sister, Erin, at a glance. I heard from a relative that Erin had returned to our hometown. When she learned about our mother's hospitalization, she got into a huge fight with our father. My dad hated her for mortgaging the house and for leaking his infertility secret. Erin denied it and tried to blame me, but my dad didn't believe her at all. Neither of them held back, and they were both detained by the police for several days. After they were released, they went their separate ways. Erin had no qualifications and was too proud to take on a regular job. I had a colleague from my mom's old company pass her a piece of information. My mom still had a sizable death benefit. Erin acted swiftly. That very night, she went to the hospital and pulled her own mother's oxygen tube. When the police arrested her, she was defiant. "She's my mom. What's wrong with me pulling her oxygen tube? I was helping her die with dignity. Why are you arresting me?" When I rushed over, all I saw was the back of Erin being arrested. The doctor said with regret, "Your mother had a very strong will to live, you know." Sigh. How could a daughter do something like that? The woman who had struggled in the ICU for over 100 days died with her eyes wide open in disbelief. "Mom, you must like this ending, right? Just like when you pulled my oxygen tube, you said it was to stop my suffering." Erin was sentenced to 3 years in prison for intentional homicide. When our father found out, he only said 2 words. "Serves her right." There was no longer a trace of affection for this daughter on his face. All his savings were used to compensate for the damages from the fire. He and his wife were divorced, so legally they had no relationship. That death benefit was ultimately deposited into my account. I donated the entire amount to a national medical foundation. I returned to the distant city of Boston to continue my studies. James Lynn called me countless times, but I always hung up. Later, I heard about his situation from my cousin, who had also come to Boston for college. He had no house, no savings. He spent his days at a matchmaking corner in the park, trying to use his still decent-looking face to find a meal ticket for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, the young, pretty women thought he was old and poor. The older, single women thought he had bad luck, a jinx on his wife and children, a true disaster magnet. He refused to accept it, got into an argument on the spot, and even hit a woman. A colleague who was watching the spectacle saw him and asked if his infertility problem had been cured. Exposed in public with his most embarrassing secret, he turned beet red with anger. He finally scurried away from the crowd. Gradually, he stopped showing up at the matchmaking corner. My cousin looked a bit strange and she whispered, "My mom said that uncle took too much of that medicine, and it's completely drained his body." I feigned surprise, my mouth agape. Well, that's truly a pity. After graduation, I got a job at a research institute recommended by my professor. Work was busy. I don't remember how much time had passed, but one day when I was leaving the lab, the security guard told me a man had been hanging around the entrance recently, claiming to be my father. He pointed, "See, that's him over there. Is he researcher Lynn's dad?" I looked up and saw my father, his hair white, his back hunched. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, looking at least 10 years older than I remembered. He walked towards me, the cold north wind wrinkling his dry smile. "Claire," he rubbed his hands together. "I've come looking for you so many times. Why do you never see me? Why would I want to?" He cried and complained. "I don't have a penny to my name now. You can't just abandon your dad. You know how much Dad doted on you when you were little. Every time your mom hit or scolded you, I would secretly put a lollipop under your pillow. Even Aaron didn't get that kind of treatment. Every year on your birthday, I would specially make you steamed egg custard. Have you forgotten all that?" He was a mess of tears and snot, his words full of emotion. I tilted my head. "When Mom hit me, you just stood by and watched. Mom said lollipops were full of artificial colors and bad for kids, so you gave me the ones Aaron didn't want. On our birthdays, you only bought a small cake for Aaron. I never once got to blow out birthday candles. I remember all of that. Do you want me to keep going?" His expression turned ugly in an instant. Even the security guard shot him a contemptuous look. "You still can't abandon me," he said, enraged. "I'm your biological father." I nodded. "It's true, I have your dirty blood in my veins. Go ahead and sue me. I will pay child support according to the court's monthly mandate. Don't come looking for me again." I turned and walked back into the research institute. He was stopped by the security guard at the gate, screaming curses. "Claire, I'll wait right here at the gate. If you have the guts, then stay inside forever. I swear I'll leech off you for the rest of my life." The voice behind me gradually faded. He threw tantrums at the gate, telling everyone who entered the institute that Claire Lynn was an unfilial daughter, morally corrupt, who didn't even care for her own father. My work is confidential. My family background had been thoroughly investigated before I was hired. My colleagues in the lab worried about my emotional state and would occasionally bring me a bouquet of flowers or some snacks, comforting me not to let the old man outside affect my mood. James Lynn came to cause a scene every day, wailing and screaming at the gate that I was inhuman. As a result of shouting too hard, he got heatstroke. When he woke up in the hospital, he wasn't quite right anymore, sometimes lucid, sometimes confused. The doctor said the heatstroke was severe, and the lack of blood and oxygen had caused neuropathy, leading to a decline in his mental capacity. I bought a bus ticket and packed him off back to our hometown. Later, I heard from my aunt, who sighed as she told me that when James Lynn was lucid, he would stay at my uncle's house and refuse to leave, cursing my uncle, saying it was all his fault for listening to a fortune teller who said I was a worthless girl, which is why his daughter turned against him. When he had an episode, he would chase after tricycle scrap collectors on the street. James Lynn disappeared on a bright, sunny day. He got lost on the road. No one knew where he went, and no one cared where he was. I walked out of the laboratory building, my mind blank for a moment. I took a deep breath, bathing in the morning light, and my mood suddenly lifted. The sun is rising. And so am I. The end.